Welcome back to this week's episode of the Campfire Series podcast, Sports Edition. I'm your host, Logan Soforenko. A very awesome interview today with the sports broadcaster, Ted Emrich, who shares about his journey from Westwood 1 radio to calling some games on ESPN. Let's get to it.
I am Ted Emrich. I do play-by-play for ESPN college basketball, also for Westwood 1 radio, college football, college basketball, major championship golf, and 3 Olympics I've covered for Westwood 1. And also some work with Fox Sports Southwest doing high school football, specifically the Texas high school state championships every year. So it's a lot of fun. I'm very fortunate. It certainly keeps me busy from the fall through the spring. And it's been a fun ride. It's from the University of North Texas, which has an outstanding broadcast program. They've churned out so many tremendous broadcasters over the years and guys that are working to this day. Mark Followell with the Dallas Mavericks, Craig Way with the Texas Longhorns, and many, many others. And just trying to continue that line and have a lot of fun along the way. So it's all good.
Have a lot of fun along the way. I like that. You said that you did some high school football in Texas, and the way Texas high school football is, it's feels like the environment is a Division I football game. It's insane. But the congratulations on that journey and taking it, because I know it's a lot of hard work that goes into it. So walk me through college. College has to be, me being a student of not only just broadcasting, but also the game of performing and doing broadcasting. It is a performance, but also it comes a lot of work, a lot of prep. But in college, it's where it all begins. Whether that be actual broadcasting or you take skills from whether it be an English class or a vocal class and you put it toward your craft. So tell me a little bit about your time at North Texas.
Yeah, I was fortunate because, again, that program is set up so that you can get reps. And as we know, you have to ply your craft as early as possible. This is where you make your mistakes. That's the most important thing. That's the only way you improve. If you're interested in play-by-play, you just have to do it. It's nothing that you can learn. And yes, it's important to study. And I to this day, I love watching the people that I respect and look up to, and you pick up things along the way. How did they handle this situation? What did they say here? What did they not say in this moment, especially on TV, where you really need to be economical, efficient with your words. But at North Texas, you had the ability to get opportunities at the student radio station, the student TV station, and you're working a regular schedule, whether it's doing sportscasts, and again, most important to me at the time, certainly doing play-by-play. It's high school football in the city of Denton. It's North Texas men's basketball and women's basketball and football and this, and name your sport. Just do it. You have to. I mean, I know it comes across as a Nike ad from years gone by. It is just do it, and you're going to look back, listen back, and you're going to cringe. What you sounded like at 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. But that's where you make your mistakes, and it's step by step. You're listening back to the game from a week ago, and okay, you attack it the next time. What can I do differently? Why did I fumble through this sequence? What can I do better? Is there something on the preparation side that I need to improve so I can be equipped for that moment? That's the fun of it. That's the challenge. And the thing is, that process never stops. Even now at ESPN, by no means am I, or honestly anybody else at my stage or 10 years down the road or 15, or guys who are number one announcers on a certain package, they're not finished products. I know I'm not. And that's the beauty of it. It's live TV. It's a live radio. I love what Al Michaels said in his book that I read a few years ago, his memoir. There is no such thing as the perfect broadcast. It doesn't exist. He admits, and I'm with him. I mean, he will tell you that probably the closest he has ever come to perfection was the Super Bowl with the Steelers and the Cardinals, which was such a good game, if
Mm-hmm.
I remember correctly. Going down to the very end.
Santonio Holmes.
Absolutely, and the side of the end zone and the toe tap right near the boundary. And I mean, listen, he is an icon, and he is the best to have ever done football on TV. And if he is saying that maybe there's one time in his career that he felt like he truly nailed it, get that A+, that 100% grade, then that tells you that there's no such thing. And we're all striving for that. We want to achieve perfection, but it's just not going to happen when you're on the air for 3 hours. You're trying to be really, really good and hopefully great night in and night out. And if you can even approach perfection, well, then you're in an amazing spot.
Well, you hit it right on the head. Heading back to what you said about college, just do it. I can't name a broadcaster. Let's use Al Michaels for an example. He mainly does football now. That's all he does. But early on in my life, when I was, 3 or 2 years old, I didn't remember. He was doing basketball. I watched a video today of the 1989 World Series that was interrupted by an earthquake. He called that game on ABC. So there are so many announcers, including yourself, you have to do all the sports, and it's just so important to know about that. And yeah, you can't be perfect. No one in life is perfect, and that's the beauty of this industry, is that you do get to strive for perfection, but you're never there, and it takes such a long time. There's constant growing, constant studying. So I appreciate you giving me some input on that. But with that being said, when you're doing a game now, you have an analyst. Analysts are so important, especially going back to Al Michaels. He's asked Chris Collingsworth now. Analysts are so important and key because they're filling in that space of what's happening in between plays. How much do you rely on your analyst, whether that be the same analyst you've had for numerous broadcasts, or every now and then you have to go in with a different one that maybe you don't have not the best chemistry with, but you're not used to bouncing off each other like that?
On TV, Logan, the analyst is the star, and they should be. They played the game, or they coached. They have experience. They have a perspective that the viewer wants and needs to hear from. Yes, of course, the play-by-play announcer is important. It takes two, right? And you want to keep that conversation flowing, but the analyst is the star. It's Jay Billis, it's Dickie V, it's Bill Walton, in college basketball. I mean, it's Collinsworth, like you said, it's Troy Aikman, Tony Romo with CBS. Go on down the line. What do they all have in common? I mean, coaching, playing at a high level. And as a play-by-play announcer, you want to bring out the best in them. And, that entails setting them up, just putting that ball on the tee when there's an opportunity. And on TV, you have the space to do that. Radio is very different. Radio is a play-by-play announcer's medium, as we know. The play-by-play announcer takes the lead there, and they have to. You're painting the picture. You are the eyes and ears of the listener. The analyst is there and serves an important role there, mind you, of course. But there's just less time, no matter the sport, and especially in basketball, which is so up-tempo. But on TV, it's a bigger canvas to paint on. And you do it differently. They are different brush strokes that you use because the viewer can see what's happening. And yes, you're filling in the gaps, and you want to identify who scored that basket, who caught that touchdown pass, who scored that goal, whatever the sport is. But there has to be room for the analyst to shine. And that's why I said earlier, being efficient, being economical with your words, your phrases. Why am I saying this right now is the question that you constantly ask yourself on TV. And that's why, honestly, silence can be your best friend too on TV as a play-by-play announcer. It's feedback and something that you hear very often. I always feel fortunate when I do hear that from a producer or somebody like that who might say, when they're in the half courts and, the shot clock is at 30, like what? You're not calling every pass. Why do I need to do that? And honestly, that's an opportunity right there for the analyst to jump in. What is he or she seeing on this possession, or just an overall observation about the game or something like that? Like, I don't have to be talking every single moment and calling every pass and every exchange and all of that. And I mean, you jump in when a shot is in the air or, whatever. And it takes feel to establish that rhythm. It takes time, just like we're talking about with the reps, right? To understand where and how to fit yourself in. But the analyst, I mean, it is critical. There's a reason, like they deserve, they get, and they deserve the top billing.
Well, you hit it right on the head when you said Tony Romo. I just think of 2018 AFC Championship on that run on the last drive by the Patriots to tie it, and then later on he was calling literally the play before it happened, and everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, that's insane!" And you said it. We got to get used to, or we have to normalize the analyst being the star. And like you said, you can see the Celtic gear behind me. Brian Scalabrine is the television analyst for NBC Sports Boston, and he educates me so much about basketball because I don't even play the game, even though I'm 6'5", which doesn't make any sense. But nevertheless, you said radio is just different than on-air television, just simply because you're painting a picture, and that's the play-by-play person's medium. So tell me a little bit about your time, a little bit of a tongue twister, forgive me, about with Westwood One. It's a pretty big station. If I'm not mistaken, it's pretty local to me. Tell me a little bit about how you got hired and how often you do some games there.
Yeah, I mean, Westwood One, I mean, is the audio leader in the country, and especially when it comes to live sports. I mean, the events that they have in their portfolio, every primetime game in the NFL in the regular season, every playoff game through the Super Bowl, and it has been that way for years. They have a regular college football package, a regular college basketball package, including the entire NCAA tournament and also the NCAA women's Final Four, the Masters, other major championships in golf. They've had the College World Series for years. It's an honor to call games for them because it's such a high standard that they set. Just looking at the announcers that they have I mean, Kevin Harlan has done the Super Bowl for them for years, and before him, it was Marv Albert.
He had that pretty funny call on Sunday with the
Absolutely.
streaker, and that's I don't mean to interrupt, but that's the second time he's called a streaker on radio,
Yes,
and I was
absolutely.
like, "Are you kidding me? That's insane." Anyways, continue.
Yeah, no, and that's what listen, Kevin is the absolute best, and especially when it comes to description, the level of description that he fits into his call, whether it's a streaker on the field or whether it's a Tom Brady touchdown pass to Gronk, it's elite, and that's why he's doing the Super Bowl every year. He is one of the very best at his craft, both on TV and on radio. Kevin Kugler has done the Final Four for years. I love Kevin's work both on Fox, on Big Ten Network, and of course on Westwood One. So just to be on that roster and do games, do college football, college basketball, having done the NCAA tournament for them for the last few years, that's it's just you want to do the event justice because usually whatever event Westwood One has, it's important. It's a big one. And so I was hired by them in 2012 I was 3 years out of high school, and to give you the full backstory, Logan, that was hired on air because I got my start with them when I was a junior in high school as a spotter for football. Whenever they would have an event that would come through Dallas, my hometown, whether it's a Cowboys game in prime time, whether it's let's say Texas OU at Fair Park, maybe a TCU game, on a Saturday night or something like that, a college football game, I would be the local person they would hire to be the spotter for their announcer. And so I was working with the likes of Dave Sims, who is now the Mariners TV voice, Kevin Kugler. I spotted for Harry Callis, for Marv Albert. The list goes on and on. Again, who's who. And just as a high schooler, to have that experience and to be in the lab, so to speak, and learn from the very best. Ian Eagle, another one of my absolute favorites. Um, it's it was eye opening just to see how they prepare and just seeing their materials, their boards, that we use for football to help us call a game that we prepare as announcers. It is so much fun just to see everyone does it a different way, and so you glean different things. Who I like what this announcer does, for this particular thing, how they organize this on their sheet, or over the course of the game. I liked how he described this moment. I liked how he engaged his analyst here during a down moment, during a timeout, just whatever it is. And you just file it in your back pocket. Again, at that age, that's all I wanted to do. I knew very early on I wanted to do play by play. And so, I was so pumped every time out. I mean, who do I get to work with this week on, a Cowboys Sunday night game, or, Thursday night or Monday night, whatever it was. And I did that throughout college. And all the while, I had established a relationship with Westwood One's executive producer, Howard Deneroff. And by the time I was ready to graduate from North Texas, I sent him a tape. Not literally a cassette. It wasn't that long ago, but it was a link.
That's my favorite when everyone says that they sent in their tape. I have a stack of tapes to review. It's it's files now. It's MP3s.
I know, but it's just the term and it sticks, right?
Yeah.
It's funny how it still sticks. Yeah. I sent him an 8-track. That's actually what I sent. And it's funny though, Howie actually prefers, at the time, I'm not sure now, but he preferred CDs even then. This is like 2009, because he would listen to them in his car when he was driving to work up in New York. And he just thought it was more convenient than an MP3, which of course would be much easier to send, right? Just send it to his email. But no, I mailed a physical CD, and he was so gracious. And again, this is a guy who is so busy. And he got back to me, and we were on the phone, and he was going over the link, the segment, football and other stuff that I put on there, and gave me good constructive criticism. And he just said, keep in touch and send me your work every year. And so 3 years later, I had sent him some of my updated stuff. Now, I'm, of course, working professionally in DFW, and he said that we might have a role for you at the Olympics in London 2012. And I'm just floored. And he said, don't get too excited. Like, this is just a producer role, but, I really like you. And, there's some opportunities here and there for some on-air stuff, but really you'll just be there, on the crew, cutting sound. And it's like, it doesn't matter what it is. It's the Olympics, it's Westwood One,
Right.
I'm all for it. Right. And I get there, and, it's about what they had laid out. And I guess I was fortunate, the first few assignments that I had to actually do on-air work, whether it be interviews with athletes or updates for their long-form coverage. They really liked what they heard, and they said, "You're not going to be a producer anymore. You're going to be on the air every day, and we're going to send you out, and you're going to be our general assignment reporter." They have, the way the Olympics works with Westwood One, much like NBC on television. You have announcers that are dedicated to the bigger sports. Now, Westwood One, it's a much smaller staff, as you might imagine, than NBC. You don't have somebody that's dedicated to badminton, let's say, or handball. But you had someone who was doing the play-by-play for swimming. You had someone who was dedicated to track and field and gymnastics and basketball, right? The major events, major sports. But it was fun for me, at 24 years old to just cover whatever outside of those parameters, whatever the hot story was, or, I remember Kayla Harrison winning a gold medal in judo. And her story is both heartbreaking and uplifting at the same time, which she endured the sexual, physical, verbal abuse as a kid, and rising above that and not letting that define her and becoming an Olympic gold medalist, and getting the chance to interview her one-on-one after she was just given the gold medal and on the podium and all of that. Like, that's what the Olympics is. And so, that is one of the great memories I take from that time. So just whatever it was. I mean, one day it would be archery, one day it would be judo, one day it would be weightlifting. If there was an American who was in contention, or there was just a great story in general. That was just such an unforgettable experience. And, was able to grow with Westwood One from there. And eventually now, like we said, doing games with college football, hoops, and the like.
And to think that you got involved, or you got the eye of them early on when you were just a spotter, a role that, people don't know exists, and it's so important. I think that for any play-by-play, especially in football, without a spotter, it's just impossible to do a game there, and it's just impossible to get those numbers so quick. I remember the first time I did a public address announcing game in high school. I was like, it was one of my first football games. I've been doing volleyball, and there's like, this is your spotter. I'm like, oh no, I'm good. And then all of a sudden I'm like, wait a second, what's going on? But that's, congratulations on that. And at London, that was just that's the most memorable Olympics in my life, at least. Rio was cool. Pyeongchang was cool, all those ones, but London was the one that stuck out to me. I love those Olympics, and that's just really cool you got to do that. But with that being said, you have to have a favorite call. There has to be a favorite game or a favorite call that you have throughout your career. What's been a memorable game for you? You just said the Olympics, but let's kind of narrow it down to maybe college basketball, your recent years with ESPN, maybe.
Oh man, that's tough.
Sorry to put the thinking cap on. That's a lot of stuff in the book.
No, it's all good. Listen, the default answer, and I think it would be the answer of many others, is you hope that that signature call, or what have you, that signature event or game is still to come in your career, and I firmly believe that's the case for me. But I'll say this. I mean, just games that stick out on the college basketball side. Again, with my mind on the Olympics, I got to do the track and field events in Rio, and I will never forget Usain Bolt's final Olympics.
Oh my goodness!
Triple gold. I got to do the track and field, all events, all of them for Westwood One that year, and Usain Bolt winning 3 more gold medals. And I mean, you're just trying to nail that.
How about the racer who broke the world record in the 400 in the 8th lane? Did you get to do that one, or was that kind of a spectator?
Yes, absolutely. And unfortunately, oh man, what was the name? And now you're really putting me on the spot, because
was he from South Africa, or?
Gosh. Yeah, I know. I know it was 5 years ago, but that should be something that I do remember. Now I'm kicking myself. I'll have to look it up in a second. But now, from the college basketball side and and high school basketball as well, because I'm blessed to have to be able to do that package as well with ESPN. I mean, that's memorable because you are seeing the future. You're seeing these guys before their lottery picks. And so, one game that sticks out is in Spartanburg, South Carolina, in a gym that sat maybe 200, 300 people, but it happened to be the home of Zion Williamson, Spartanburg Day School. And we got to do his senior night, his final high school home game on ESPN2. This was 3 years ago now. And close game. And of course, in the final minute, he iced it with a steal at midcourt, and one of his signature dunks where just the whole gym is shaking, even with so few people allowed inside, just this tiny bandbox of a gym. At Geico Nationals in New York City a couple of years ago, IMG Academy and Montverde Academy. You have guys that, they dot, seriously, both of those rosters. You have kids that are dotting college basketball rosters all across the country now, and guys who were first round picks. Josh Green with the Mavericks. Cade Cunningham will be a top 5 pick next year. Of course, freshman with Oklahoma State right now. He was in that game with Montverde, and it goes down to the final minutes and the final shot. Doing Big 12 games this year on a nightly basis. Just the game last night. It was on Big 12 now on ESPN Plus. And by the way, they are putting, good games on ESPN Plus. And I will say, going in, I didn't expect last night to be as good a game as it was, Texas and Kansas State, but that went down to the final minute, and Texas won 80-77. And speaking of future first round picks, Greg Brown certainly looked like it. If he's going to hit 4 threes, I can see why he could very well be a lottery pick and not just a first round pick. And you combine his shot making with his springs for legs. But no, it's so much fun, Logan. Every night, you talked about it earlier with, working with one analyst or bouncing around. With the high school games, I get to work with Paul Biancardi. And, over 4 or 5 years now that I've been with him, you have a rapport, you have chemistry. And I love working with him because he's got a great personality. It's so easy to talk about the game with him. We mesh really well, I feel. At least I do with him. I don't know if he would say the same thing about me. But with college games on ESPN, outside of a few crews, at the very top, you're working with somebody new just about every night. You have a rotation, and that's what I've kind of settled in to with the Big 12 this year with Lance Blanks or King McClure or Brendan Manzer, Robbie Hummel. They are all great, but that's the deal. When you look at the very top and a guy like Ian Eagle, who can drop in, whether he's doing the NFL on CBS, whether he's doing an NBA game on TNT, a college basketball game on CBS, if he's working with Bill Raftery or Charles Davis or Dan Fouts before him, or Jim Spanarkel on hoops, it doesn't matter. And that's the lesson for all of us. You have to work with everybody, and you should. That's how you develop. That's how you get better, and you get a feel. Hopefully, again, this is outside of the pandemic, right? The key to that. This is just so important, and it's very hard to do right now. Obviously, those of us who are fortunate enough to still do games right now, but normal year, whatever that looks like. You're going out to dinner, the night before. You're grabbing lunch the day of the game or breakfast or whatever, and you're just catching up. You hope that there is some kind of relationship, some kind of baseline, and hopefully a friendship. But if you're working with somebody for the first time, you're just trying to meet and get to know them, because that can come out on the air and hopefully in an organic, natural way. Because you don't want it to devolve into I talk, you talk, I talk, you talk. Let's connect the dots here, common thread. You play off each other, you're listening to each other, and yeah, you're calling the game, but it has to be conversational. That is just imperative. And the more you do it, the better feel that you get for that.
Yeah, I find it very not uncommon but cool that you said that high school sports stuck out to you, and high school basketball stuck out to you, and this comes from me being so close to Sierra Canyon. You mentioned Big 12, Brandon Boston. He went to Sierra Canyon, and Zion Willie, not
I am a
Zion
bunch
Williamson.
last year.
Zy-
BJ Boston with Sierra
oh
Canyon and
yeah,
Brian
oh yeah.
and all of them. Yeah.
That's one of the last sporting events I remember before the pandemic, because they had just won CIF regionals against Etowanda with the buzzer beater, and that was it. That 3 days later the world shut down, so it was insane. But now, tying into what you said about your analysts, yeah, it's really important to work with everybody, because when Jim Nance went from Phil Simms to Tony Romo, I was like, this is interesting, because they were making a big deal of Tony Romo coming to the booth, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're not just, like you said, talking and then he's talking. They're meshing and they're having conversations, and that's what makes, they've done the Super Bowl 2 out of the past 3 years so enjoyable, and just in general with doing an analyst. But one quick advice question I want to run by you just before we head off. I fortunately enough get to do my first ever play-by-play this winter. I go to a D3 school, so I go to a small 2,100 California Lutheran University in Thousand Oaks. Reps are reps.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't
exactly
matter if you're going. Listen, Syracuse is great. I have friends who have come from Syracuse, and listen, that program is what it is for a reason. But man, at Cal Lutheran, I'm sure you get, again, outside of a pandemic, hey, if you're the one person who is available, who's interested, and you're getting all the reps, more power to you.
Exactly. And I appreciate you saying that, because sometimes it's hard to, be reminded that it doesn't matter, just for athletes as well. It doesn't matter what school you go to. Every athlete, every human has the same 24 hours in the day. It's just a matter of what you do with them. But I'm doing basketball without an analyst, for what I've been told. What's some advice you can give there? I know that and also with D3 schools, there's not a lot of film and tape on every school. So prep and just advice on just doing it solo. You said you don't have to call it like a radio game, because people see the picture, you see the game. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, and run it back. So it is on TV, and you're working without an analyst.
It is going to be. TV. It's going to be streamed on YouTube or a website.
That's what I meant. Yeah, it is streamed, and video. So that
yes.
So it will be a TV call. It's not a radio call, like you said.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, that's tough. I mean, radio would be much easier to do without an analyst, because you are describing everything, and you can fill in the gaps here and there. And honestly, just pausing to take a breath when there is a whistle or a stoppage, that's okay. That's allowed, even on radio. You're constantly following the action. On TV, it's tougher. I'll give you a couple of examples. I was watching one of the first games of the season on ESPN this year. It was Michigan and Bowling Green, and Jason Benetti and Robbie Hummel were doing the game from their homes. And at some point in the first half, Robbie's kit malfunctioned. He lost audio, and all of a sudden, Jason is flying solo. And listen, Jason is one of the very best in the profession already, as we know. Doing the White Sox and so many events on ESPN. And you would never be able to tell that he was struggling, because he wasn't. I mean, that just wasn't the case. He kept it moving. It became a blend of, again, on TV, of course, a blend of his play-by-play and interjecting notes, nuggets, conversational elements, obviously without the payoff of having Robbie there. But whether it was a factoid, whether it was something that Juwan Howard had mentioned to them in their meeting the day of the game or the day before, he kept it flowing. He kept it moving. It was still a conversational style, even though it was just one announcer for that 4-minute segment. And of course, they were able to figure out what was up with Robbie's kit. Internet went down or whatever. and he was able to rejoin things. But Jason kept that thing afloat. It was never any moment or like, man, now that they're off the rails, and that wasn't going to happen. Jason, with his experience in baseball, that's the thing. Announcers who come up doing baseball, in the minor leagues, and they are working solo, and again, primarily on radio, of course, for however many games a year, and it's night after night after night. You adopt that conversational style very early. You have to. How else are you going to make it through 9 innings and inform the audience and also entertain them? Yeah, it's a challenge. You would love to be able to play off somebody. And again, working on your craft as a television play-by-play announcer where you want the analyst to be the star. That is the dynamic that we know. You make the best of it, and you prepare like you would. Hopefully you have the chance to visit with both coaches. I mean, we have worn out the Zoom accounts, let me tell you, at ESPN this year. By the way, how did Zoom supersede Skype after?
Well, I think just simply because you have the ability, like for me right now, just to record, and there's something about Zoom that once this is my 60th Zoom call I've done for this podcast, so it makes it easy just to hit record and hook up your audio to it. But I don't know, Skype, in my opinion, like for just maybe like a phone call, I like Skype better.
Yeah,
I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I'd never heard of Zoom before the pandemic, and look,
neither did I.
Now here we are on Zoom.
My teacher brings up, we're not going to do Zoom, or we're going to do a Zoom, because last year when we started online school, we were in Google Meets. So I was like, okay, this is cool. And then for volleyball, we would meet up over Zoom. And I was like, what the heck is Zoom? But here we are.
Yeah, that's it. So again, hopefully you're able to set up, whether it's a Zoom or just a phone call with each coach, getting 15 minutes, 20 minutes of their time, whatever they can allow. Visit, again, understand it. I understand it's D3 and don't know about the full staff. If there is a sports information director that you can get in touch with, don't know about game notes, but sometimes, and I do this even for, Big 12 games. I mean, Google can be your best friend.
Mm-hmm.
And again, you want to be able to verify things and, what is this source? But I mean, just a Google search of a player's name, you who knows what'll turn up, some article from their hometown paper when they were in high school and you didn't realize, even something from their junior year or something, and there's some story about him and his family, or her and whatever, she plays the saxophone as well, like who knew, just something. And I'm not saying it's just all trivial elements that you're trying to work in, but who knows, there might be a story that is relevant. And that way you can put, a name and a face to that number that's running around on the court, and you can humanize them. That's so important in TV because you have that space, that opportunity to do it. At least more so compared to radio when you are focused on describing the action. So yeah, I mean, just prepare like you normally would. And yeah, it's tough without the analyst, but make the best of it, and just encourage you to attack it wholeheartedly.
And that goes just to everybody. Attack it wholeheartedly, whatever that may be, especially in times like these, just finding a way to stay creative and to improve on your craft, because who knows when this thing's going to end. I hopefully see an end in sight, with vaccines rolling out, but like you said before, we're just thankful that, you guys are able to call games. And with that being said, Ted, thank you so much for, as the dogs begin to bark, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and chatting with me about not only just the industry, but just about your journey as a broadcaster, and also just as a sports lover.
Logan, anytime. And go refill the dog's water, okay? They're thirsty.
No, I'm pretty sure they're probably barking somebody outside, because you got two dogs. The kind of the older one goes up, and the little one's like, ooh, he's barking? What are we barking at? And then he starts barking. Too. But Exactly.
Squirrel.
That's how it goes. That's honestly like the humans right now with the way that, how bored we are in our houses.
No doubt.
But stay safe. Best of luck the rest of the season for basketball and any other endeavors coming up. And I'm looking forward to following your career from this moment on.
Thanks so much, Logan. All the best to you.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. You take care.
All right. See ya.
That's the end of the episode. Check us out on all of our platforms. And like always, we'll see you next week. This is Logan Soforenko signing off.